There's nothing quite like a little preseason action to get the juices flowing. The Dolphins back in Club Dub with a 7-point win at home in their preseason opener against the Atlanta Falcons.
You are Locked On Dolphins, your daily Miami Dolphins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Miami, welcome back to another episode of Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. I'm your host, Kyle Krabs, a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan, host of Locked On Dolphins, co-host of Locked On NFL Scouting. You can find our shows on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Tip of the cap to our everydayers, because it is your team every day here on the Locked On Network. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Allow me to welcome everybody back to Club Dub. The Dolphins winning a preseason football game, which is the best adjective that you could use to describe this football game, was a preseason football game by a score of 20-3 with the two quarterbacks that played in this game. And we kind of wondered before the start of the game how they going to split it. Each guy got a half. You got some situational football stuff for each guy. And we'll save that for segment 2, because we're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly from this Dolphins preseason victory, with the Dolphins posting 144 rushing yards on the ground. They outrush Atlanta by about 63 yards. Really struggled to get things going in the passing game, but they were more efficient on third down than what the Falcons were. They lost time of possession by a touch, but they were the more disciplined team. They had better penalties. And when you consider how deep into the well this game started for Miami, I think that's one of the things that stands out to me the most. Is you had a lot of young guys playing. Pretty much anybody who's presumed to be a starter on the roster didn't play, and that includes a guy like Liam Eichenberg, who I pointed to and said I'd let him play the whole game at right guard. He didn't even dress for the game. So the Dolphins had a chance to kind of dip into what my first winning group is of the good from a Dolphins 20-13 victory over the Atlanta Falcons in week 1 of the preseason. The rookie class. Oh my goodness. Did these guys play with their hair on fire today? So Chop Robinson didn't dress. Mike McDaniel said he probably could have gone, but they want to protect him from whatever dings and minor bumps and bruises he has at this stage. And he's also expected to have a little bit of a bigger role for the Dolphins collective team this year than the other rookies, which includes second-round pick Patrick Paul, who played the vast majority of the game and absolutely stole Arnold Ebikete's lunch money throughout the course of this game. A lot of explosive runs, outside and inside, coming behind Patrick Paul. Looked controlled in pass protection. I thought he played an outstanding football game. Patrick Paul did. And you go to the next draft pick, right? And I see Muhammad Kamara didn't dress. He was a 5th-round pick. Their 4th-round pick came courtesy of Jaylen Wright, and all that did was make chicken salad out of you-know-what on more than one occasion. He rushed 10 times for 55 yards and a touchdown on an inside zone run up the middle. He also had a big-time catch and run on a screen pass that was kind of bobbled. I guess did they count it as technically as a rush because it was behind the line of scrimmage, where they went to throw a perimeter screen to him, and the ball was kind of thrown backwards, and he bobbled it, and then he peeled back across and raced all the way across the other side of the field and got up the far sideline and ended up getting a big explosive play for a first down out of it, and ran hard. He ran hard. He looked explosive, and that's it for Miami, right? It's a 210-pound back with explosiveness that if you're going to give light box counts, this is a player who can take advantage of it in a lot more ways than just one and be a tone setter in doing so. And Jaylen Wright looked that part. I would also extend a little bit of love to Malik Washington, who only caught one pass for 5 yards, but Also had an end around for a 20-plus yard rush gain. He handled the return duties for the first half of this game. He didn't have a very good first fielded punt. He kind of didn't get up on top of it, and he let it bounce from depth and had to play it on a bounce, and it kicked hard and low and ended up losing yardage on that play, where if he'd have got up on top of it and fielded it tighter to the bounce, he probably would have been able to field it and avoid the negative yardage loss. But a couple of really physical run blocks from him on the perimeter. That stood out in a big way for me. And then you go to Patrick McMorris. This dude played with his hair on fire. He was credited with almost double-digit tackles. He was credited with a pass defense that was a really combative play at the catch point, playing around the body to elevate and on a hook route and break up the pass. Had a really nice play down in the low red zone where he cut underneath of Grayson Murphy to play off of Murphy playing outside contain and had a tackle for loss. He stood up Atlanta's tight end right near the front pylon down in the low red zone to force a stop. McMorris was all over the place. And this draft class had a lot of really good, positive contributions to it, to this victory for the Dolphins. You feel great about that. I also would like to point out the interior defensive line rotation. Like Benito Jones didn't dress, Calais Campbell didn't dress, Zach Sealer didn't dress. Kind of the guys you would expect to not dress didn't dress. But everybody else, Neville Gallimore played his rear end off. Super hot motor, came in on long and late downs, rushing the passer at 315 pounds, playing off of the tight end who's chipping and then working back inside across the face of the offensive tackle to collapse the pocket, or running TE stunts with Cam Brown and picking off the guard with a crash down inside and then pinballing off of that, or rushing around the left tackle from off the edge and putting a massive hit on the quarterback. Not a big production game from Neville Gallimore, but I guarantee you when we turn on the coaches tape and we look back at this game, 90 at 315 pounds is going to be all over the tape. I thought he played an outstanding game. And even the guys deeper in the well, like I thought Leonard Payne, who was a UDFA ad for this team, the guys that he was going against later in the game, completely resetting the line of scrimmage and just absolutely whooping guys up and down, being physical, utilizing his athleticism to force the back off the tracks or forcing the quarterback to feel him. Thought he had a nice day. And I'd also be remiss to not give a little bit of love to Jeff Wilson, who had the team's first touchdown. Jeff kind of had a bummer of a drop on the play before. Love that they got him a chance to redeem himself on a swing route, and he dives for the front pylon. Kind of reminiscent of the first touchdown he scored with the team after he was acquired by the trade deadline back in 2022. Catch the ball out of the backfield, make the first arriving tackler miss, kind of extend the ball up over the pylon. It was a nice play by Jeff Wilson. So, though he ran hard, he got stacked up behind the line of scrimmage a few times. Definitely doesn't have the same dynamic ability of Jaylen Wright, but he was one of the guys that I did the bubble showcase on. I said, this is a guy who's on the bubble that I'm going to be looking at and want to see what he does. And he caught 3 balls for 18 yards at a touchdown and had a couple of nice runs. And then his total yardage was kind of offset by some of the losses up front with the offensive line. So that's kind of the first place my mind goes when I think about the good. There's more good than this. How about Jason Sanders hitting a 58-yarder? He missed the other 58-yarder. The defense as a whole being super combative late in this game where they had multiple opportunities down in the red zone where they forced stops from the Falcons offense to force turnovers on downs to help the team win this football game. I think that kind of experience is really valuable. And I even like the fact that you look at the defense as a whole, and this was kind of the first time we got the sampling of Anthony Weaver's DNA with this personnel group. And then had a couple 3rd and 4th downs, and they said, we're going to put our cards on the table. We're going to be aggressive. We're going to come after you. We're going to force you to make good decisions with the football under duress. And I think some of the guys that we have on this secondary and in this back seven, whether they played tonight or not, that's going to be a really nice recipe for success. So I think that's a lot of the good. It's probably not everything, but there's so much to walk away from a game like this with, and that's why I'm a dork who's sitting here sipping my coffee at 11:30 at night on a Friday night, geeking out about a preseason game. We're going to get into the bad next here on this episode of Locked On Dolphins. Make sure you stick with us. Passion, drive, and patience are not just the formula for winning championships. It's also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guarantee Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge dubs. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. eBay Guarantee Fit available only to U.S. customers. Speaking of coffee, I'm going to take a sip here. Don't mind me. The bad. Y'all watch the quarterbacks play, right? Mike White and Skylar Thompson, neither one of which posted very particularly impressive numbers. Skylar Thompson finished 8 of 19 for 95 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Mike White finished 4 of 14 for 26 yards, and one of his 4 completions was a jet motion touch pass behind the line of scrimmage. I'm sympathetic to this. And Mike McDaniel said this in the postgame press conference. Each one of the individual circumstances that those quarterbacks played with, there was complicating factors, some of which were outside of the individual quarterback's control. I think about Mike, and he was playing with Mike Harley and McGowan. Kyrick McGowan are kind of the guys that are running routes for him. And you're down to Chris Brooks at running back, and you had one tight end, which was Hayden Rusi, was the one who was taking snaps for you. Hayden Rusi deserves some love and a shout out, by the way. He had an awesome block on the Jaylen Wright touchdown run that kind of got overlooked because Malik Wright came down and cracked the safety on the same play. But watch 49 at the point of attack on that same play create, wash, and throw his guy on the other side of the center. It was a great block. So I'm sympathetic to that. But you came into this game saying both backup quarterbacks have been objectively bad at practice for 2 weeks and counting. And then you come out and the guys go a combined 12 for 33 for, I'll do the math off the top of my head, 121 yards, 1 touchdown and an interception, and probably narrowly missed another 2 to 3 interceptions on the day. Skylar missed another touchdown pass. He put it hot and behind on Braylon Sanders. But Mike White scrambles on a critical 3rd down late in the game and slides. And do you think it's a bad spot in the final 5 minutes? Yeah, I think Mike White started his slide at or beyond the 12-yard line, but they had inconclusive evidence of the play, stood as called, and as soon as you start your slide, you're down. So they mark it 4th and half a yard. The Dolphins punt the ball back. Atlanta gets down in the red zone again. They turn it over, and the Dolphins win the football game. Hooray. But just about everything that could have gone wrong for the quarterbacks, particularly Mike White, did. And even some of the quick game stuff where you just got to catch and shoot and get the ball out. He's a tall, long guy, right? His delivery is not quick because he is a tall and long guy. And a lot of the ball handling that this offense is predicated around. And you saw it with some of the perimeter type throws where they were trying to get the ball out in the playmakers' hands fast. It didn't look good, or the ball wasn't accurate, and that was the Jaylen Wright play. Where Jaylen Wright's got to peel back and dribble this thing behind the line of scrimmage and collect it, and then peel back around and break contain out the back door. Now, I do think of the quote from Tom Moore, who was with the Colts when Peyton Manning was there. Because the negative talking point out of this game guaranteed is going to be the backup quarterbacks, right? And Tom Moore was asked about the backup quarterback getting reps in the event that Peyton Manning were to go down for an extended period of time with an injury. And Tom Moore says, if 18 goes down, we are expletive. And we don't practice expletive. So I think some of that, to some degree, we talk at length about how this offense and what it does is predicated on the strengths and tailored to the strengths of your starting quarterback, as it should be. That is the responsible thing to do. But if you have one of the more unique skill sets in the league, and that's the argument that people like Dan Orlovsky make when they say there's only a handful of guys across the league that can execute this offense as it is currently designed as efficiently as the guy who is there in Miami executing the offense can and does. I think it's a valid statement. I did that for Substack on Touchdown Miami. I looked at 38 quarterbacks across the league, and I graded them all on the traits based on what we know to be most important for this Dolphins offense. And Tua was in the top 8 in the entire league for the offense that is tailored to his strengths. The problem is Skylar Thompson and Mike White both graded in the bottom 5 of guys that I did, because I did all the starters across the league, a handful of other guys, and all 3 quarterbacks on the Dolphins roster. Now, is there maybe something to explore if you want to kick the tires on a different kind of player? I think one thing that might be responsible, or maybe a little bit more ambitious, but it gives you a better chance to win, is if you do need to have a backup quarterback that plays in a game, and we're hoping that's not the case. Tua played all 17, 18 games last year. Maybe a different skill set is appropriate. So does the team do anything with a backup quarterback? Probably not. I would be surprised if they did. I think they're just going to ride with whoever ends up winning the job here. But this performance was not good. Right? I think we can all kind of own and accept that. I thought Braylon Sanders let a couple balls get away from him. They had a chance to catch as well. I thought Channing Tindall was up and down. He made a couple of really nice plays, but he also missed an open field tackle. He had an opportunity to scrape over the top on a run play, and he cut underneath of a block on the edge and ran himself out of the play and gave up more yardage on the perimeter. So there were ups and downs with Channing Tindall. Had a huge sack. Looked like Georgia Channing Tindall with what he did at Georgia at such a high level. I think maybe there's a sub role for him in that regard. Do want to give a little bit more love to a couple of special teams guys as I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the roster, and it's all coming back to me now, right? Because you catalog so much information in the course of what felt like a 6-hour football game. It wasn't, but it felt like a 6-hour football game. Curtis Bolton, I thought, played really well, played an admirable game as a guy who only signed here recently and was kind of known as a potential special teams guy and an undersized linebacker. And he flew around and played hard and made a couple of really nice tackles. I wanted to give him a little bit of a shout. And then Saran Neal had the opening tackle on the kickoff, forced and recovered a fumble, had a fit on the perimeter where he filled against a perimeter run and a toss play and made the tackle on the edge. Now, he left this game with some kind of issue, and he was back on the sideline with his pads on, so it looked like he was fine. But bumps and bruises are certainly a talking point coming out of this game as well. And we'll talk about that next because we're talking about the ugly here on Locked On Dolphins. Stick with us. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to make sure that you find all of the qualified candidates that are right for your role. And that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. And in any given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Today's episode of Locked On Dolphins is sponsored by BetterHelp. Your schedule is packed with kids' activities, big work projects, and more. It's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when we know what makes us happy, it's hard to find time for everything. But if you feel like you have no time for yourself, non-negotiables like therapy are more important than ever. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. It's entirely online. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOn today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOn. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Mostly good, and not just because the Dolphins won the game. Did I revel in the chance to go back and chirp at a few of the Falcons fans who felt it was necessary to interject themselves and talk smack on some joint practices and the practice recaps on YouTube? Yes. I had a great time doing so. I'm petty like that. What happened? Falcons fans, what happened? Hit send a few times, move on with your life. Get ready for the show, the post-game show. The bad, backup quarterback play largely rules the day there. The ugly, for me, is two things. The first being the injuries and the guys who had to be excused and walked off the field in some way, shape, or form. Now, Patrick McMorris got shook up, came back into the game, proceeded to ball out. Tanner Connor had 3 receptions for 70 yards, had a big chunk gain up the right sideline on a busted coverage, put a really slick move on a tackler in the open field, and then used his speed to get up the field and create an explosive play. It felt like Mike White's only completion for 20 minutes of game time was a pass over the middle to Tanner Connor that he took for 20-something yards and either had somebody land on his hip or got his leg caught underneath him on the tackle. Whatever it was, you could tell he was pretty frustrated. And he's very much on the bubble alongside Jody Fortson. Jody Fortson had a reception on a slide out of the backfield in split flow action. But Tanner Connor made the splash plays. For him to get hurt, it's a bummer. This is year 3 for him. There should be a sense of urgency. You could tell by how frustrated he was that he felt a sense of urgency. So you don't like seeing that. Zeke Vandenberg, another one, started over Tyndall. And Bolton played over him too for a stretch there, kind of in the first couple 20 minutes of the game. But he was somebody who you had an intrigue with. He was popping in cases at camp with playing between the tackles and being a fill linebacker that gets downhill. He left this game, got shook up throughout the course of this game. Obviously, Saron Neal getting shook up throughout the course of this game. But the big one is Keon Smith. Keon started this game at left guard with Patrick Paul at left tackle. And Ryan Hayes, you want to talk about the ugly Ryan Hayes. We'll talk about him in just a second. He got whooped so bad. Guy comes screaming in off the right edge, misses Skylar Thompson, but gets thrown into Keon Smith's leg with his leg kind of planting in the ground. Knee hyperextends. He does walk off the field. You hope it's nothing serious for Keon Smith, but that's a big-time bummer for a player who had just gotten so much better from what he was as a rookie. I really felt for Keon watching him walk off the field, and I hope we get the best news we possibly can for Keon Smith. The tackle position is a position where you have depth. Obviously, Kendall Lamb, Teron Armstead, and Austin Jackson didn't play in this game. Patrick Paul did and played great. I think we can be living in a world where Patrick Paul is the preferred swing tackle or preferred backup to Teron Armstead at some point this season, especially if he keeps playing like he did. The Dolphins kind of have a numbers game on the offensive line, and Keon playing at guard was potentially trying to find a resolution to that numbers game. And that one hurts because that's a player I would have wanted to prioritize getting on the 53 if I could make it work from a position versatility standpoint. And then obviously just a guy who didn't have draft capital to lean on, got on the practice squad, worked his tail off, really showed some promising growth. You root for players like that. So I'm hoping we get the best possible news for all the Dolphins guys that got shook up and the Falcons guys that got shook up too. You know, they had a couple of guys, including, was it DeMarco Helms with an air cast on his leg with a cart. So thoughts going out to those guys are well over on the other side, on the other sideline with the Atlanta Falcons. But the ugly is definitely the injury component of a game, any game. And it felt like, especially in the first quarter, it was just like guy after guy. It's like, can we get this to calm down and just play the game, get through the game? But from a performance standpoint, back in the day, this isn't like this anymore, but you used to have waves of cuts, right? And after every preseason game, you'd have to cut 5 guys and go from 90 to 85 and 85 to 80, and then you made the big cuts. I can tell you if the process was still like that, and if I had to do 5 cuts on Monday morning coming out of this game, Ryan Hayes would probably be the first name I that would be on the block for me. Way overmatched by anybody on the other side of the line from Atlanta's perspective. And seeing Patrick Paul dog walk a few guys and just physically overwhelm guys. And then to get the contrast of that is the other tackle who's playing is Ryan Hayes. And he yielded to Matos at the very end of the game, but he played almost the whole game. And it was ugly. Ugly is the appropriate word to describe the right tackle situation with Kendall Lamb out and Austin Jackson out, protecting their preferred starters. And that's fine. It's part of the evaluation process. And when we get the all-22, we're going to look at individual performances as compared to the performance of the unit as a whole. And we're not going to judge it on the individual success of the entirety of the unit, right? That's how it goes in the preseason. But that performance was not good. I would say that. So that's going to do it for us here on Locked On Dolphins, your post-game, your first club dub of the season. It's the preseason, but nevertheless, club dubs are nice. It's nice to get back after a rough close to the season last year for the Dolphins. Now, up next, we have Washington next week in Tampa Bay. So we will hear updates from Mike McDaniel as he is available. Players that got banged up in this game, other potential players as well. And then we will shift gears. We have a joint practice with Washington next week, another evaluation opportunity that's coming your way against a couple of really good defensive tackles up front for this offensive line group. So lots to look forward to. We're going to have you covered right here on Locked On Dolphins. It is your team every day. I appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Enjoy Club Dub. Kick your feet up. Enjoy it. Stay for a while. And here's hoping we get to stay for another week after next weekend against the Commanders. I'll be back to talk to y'all again soon. Go Fins.